Well, it's not too often that we get to an intersection here of podcasting, entrepreneurship, and truck, but that's exactly what this episode is about. So it's actually a really amazing story that we have here with Truck and Hustle. You'll find out he started a podcast literally 3 years ago, maybe 3.5, maybe 4. But it's grown to much, much more than that. He's got a great story. You can tell he has a passion even bigger than mine than I have for diesel laptops or what he's doing. So you want to follow someone that's going somewhere and going to do a lot of great things, just listen to this podcast, give him a follow afterwards. So sit back and enjoy. All right, Rahmel, Truck and Hustle.
Hustle.
What is Truck and Hustle?
Oh, man. Well, first, Tyler, thank you for having me here. This place is amazing. Your business is incredible. So thank you for that. I have to always start with that. So Truck and Hustle started out as a podcast in 2019, before the pandemic. I've been in transportation for 20 years. I started out getting my CDL. Quickly learned that I wasn't suited to be a truck driver because I was just uncomfortable behind the wheel. I got an opportunity very early to work in operations for a small mom and pop trucking company. That company delivered bottles for Pepsi. So I learned trucking just by happenstance. I got into the industry, didn't plan to, but I just kind of stumbled into it. Ended up running that account. It was a multi-million-dollar Pepsi account. Kind of cut my teeth there with that company. I started working for Ryder a couple years later. Ryder Corporate, everybody's heard of that. Their RAL division was there for about 7 years, continued to grow in transportation. Then in 2015, I started my own business in staffing, which I still currently have. So we staff CDL Class A and B truck drivers for mid-size to larger transportation fleets. When the drivers have vacations or they need somebody for a temporary basis, they call us. So in 2019, I was just kind of looking for some additional things to do, ways I could add value and kind of give back to the community. I had done pretty well in the staffing business. And, I was just looking for, what was out there that I could do. Because I've always been a creative person, entrepreneur at heart, and always just doing things. So podcasting was something that I've always been extremely, interested in. But the podcasts that I listened to, they were more so focused around e-commerce or just general business or mindset. And I was like, what could I start that would be different, that would stand out from everything else that I see here? So, one day I just said, hey, man, I've been in trucking for so long, transportation. Why don't I start a podcast about that? So I started doing some research, just seeing what else was out there. And frankly, a lot of the stuff I saw, there were other platforms, but they were boring to me. They didn't really interest me, or they didn't speak to my soul. Yeah. So I said, I'm going to start a trucking podcast, and I'm going to mix, kind of my personality with that podcast and just start talking to people about all the different opportunities in transportation and logistics because, it saved my life. I didn't go to college. I went to high school. Sorry. I didn't go to college. Right after high school, I kind of, went out, tried to figure out life, ended up, back at home. But after that, I found the transportation industry, and I was like, man, this has been a great opportunity. My first job, I was making $45,000 a year. And at that time, this was early 2000s, that was a good salary, right? For somebody who didn't have a college education. Yeah. So I'm like, man, this industry is great. And what I learned about transportation is you don't have to necessarily have all the accolades or all the college degrees and all that kind of stuff. As long as you're willing to work hard, you can literally build yourself up from ground level and become a corporate leader if you want to, right? And that's how it's always been. So because of that, I said, I want to teach people about getting into transportation. And there's so many different niches and so many different ways you get into transportation, right? For example, diesel laptops, right? What you do, you have a special niche that you guys specialize in. Yeah. That's different to everybody, right? And there's so many of these little interesting verticals that you could get into in this industry. And I'm like, I want to put the spotlight on that. So that's where Truck and Hustle was born. So 2019, July, we shot our first episode. That episode was myself and a guy who used to work. We both actually worked at Ryder together. He was a company driver and I was his dispatcher. But he actually went on to leave Ryder, start his own business. He became an owner-operator, bought a truck, and then got a second truck, and he had somebody driving that one. And then I had left Ryder and started my staffing company. So that conversation was about both of our transitions from working at Ryder into entrepreneurship, and we just talked about that. And then we started to have more of those conversations, and eventually it just grew to where people started reaching out to me to tell their stories as it just became popular. So ultimately what Truck and Hustle is, it's a platform platform for transportation and logistics professionals. We highlight entrepreneurs. We tell stories, and we just want to expose people to the transportation and logistics industry, all different types of verticals. We start with the origin story, then we go into the business, and then we go into the tips and tricks of how you too can do the same thing, right? With a little bit of determination, hard work, and grit. So that's ultimately what it is, and that's how we started, and we've been doing it since 2019, and we've continued to grow year over year since then.
Yeah, so I mean, now you got more going on just a podcast now, right? So
yes.
I mean, I know you're on YouTube. I see all the views, all the things on there.
Yep.
But you're doing events. You got merch. How do you make money right now, right? Like, how do you make people like, cool?
Let's
I want
get
to do a
into
podcast.
it, right?
I want to make money. How do you make money?
For sure, that is a great question. So so as the podcast continued to grow, we started to do like the on location interviews. Our community started to demand other things from us, right? Like, and that's what we do. We follow our hearts and our community. So as the platform grew, people wanted to start doing these events. They want to get together in person. So we started to do the events. So we do two types of events as of right now. We have one thing called our Reset, which is our quarterly networking event, which usually is about 250 to 400 people. We go to different cities in different states all over the country, and we find a venue, and what we do is we usually have like a brunch. We'll do a live podcast. There'll also be like some networking opportunities and just like entertainment, just something really cool for people to kind of let their hair down. We call it the Reset because anybody from the trucking industry knows after that 70 hours, you got to reset your clock, right? So it's like the 34-hour reset when you get a chance to take a break. Yeah. And then what I'm extremely proud about is our conference, which is Freight Fest. So Freight Fest is our annual conference that takes place in Houston, Texas. Our first conference was last year. For our first conference, we put it together in 3 months, and we had about 750 people there. This year, we're on pace to do about 1,500. We're looking to double in size.
So someone's a party planner on your side.
Yeah. So it's super exciting. And so now we've grown into, like you said, not only a podcast, but we also do events. We also do merch, right? We do the Truck and Hustle sweatshirts and hoodie, which I got to get you some merch. People just love to wear our Truck and Hustle merch. In addition to that, in about 30 to 45 days, we're going to be launching our first online community, which is going to be what I like to call like Truck and Hustle on steroids, where people can have more of an intimate relationship with us. We're going to have coaches, and we're also going to have some peer-to-peer kind of mentoring, and where people kind of learn and grow together. So that's some things that we're working on. To answer your question, though, because I didn't forget about it, how do we make money? Yeah. So the traditionally, podcasts make money off of sponsorships and affiliate revenue, right? So sponsorship is obviously someone or a business or a product who would like your audience, right? Who you have a audience in common, and basically you're doing ad reads for them, and you're just basically bringing your community and telling them about the product. In addition to that, you have affiliates to where it's like, you recommend the product and you have some type of affiliate relationship. For us, we don't really want to depend on that. For the main reason is this, right? When you start really diving into the sponsorship and affiliate world, it could dilute your brand, right? Because now you have to kind of answer to these people who are your sponsors and your affiliates. And we didn't ever want to do that. So we wanted to build our own experiences, our own products for our community. And then people who we do partner with, it's a true partnership, right? It's not like we're just taking $1 just to be able to monetize and be able to survive. No, it's because we feel you can truly, that whatever you have is truly a resource for our community, and it works on both ends. So we do entertain partnerships, but we're very, very particular about who we partner with. And you won't see us just promoting anybody. So we've taken our time with that, but it is one of the ways that we drive revenue. But for the most part, it's our events, our merch, and our sponsorships will be the other thing.
Yeah, I totally get the brand thing, because I've had some people on my podcast before, and we've done an episode, and like a little bit later, I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that, because it's not who you thought they were, right? Like
100%.
You didn't do enough background checking, and same with us bringing on new vendors. Like, okay, who are you guys? What do you do? Is this going to work? We don't want to upset our customers and do those things.
Right.
So no, I mean, it's all fascinating, because I've seen a lot of people start doing podcasts, and a lot of them stop.
Yeah.
And then I see a lot of them. They hit a wall where they're like, okay, I'm one man or one woman. I can only do so many episodes, and I can only charge so much for a sponsorship. And then they hit that wall, right? They're okay, now how am I going to make money? So it's really interesting to see you do something I haven't seen before, because with the conferences and the things you do, because the only other way I've seen it work is when people use like the podcast almost like as a consulting thing.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm going to position myself as the expert. And by the way, I also do consulting over here to help you.
Like,
So
like a lead gen.
Like a lead gen. It's a lead gen tool.
Yeah, it's really like podcasting is like the new like starving artist type of platform, man. It's very difficult to monetize a podcast, and you have to really be strategic. If your goal is to podcast as for business, and it's not just passion, which to me, if you're spending your time doing something, you should always monetize it. But if that's your goal, you literally have to kind of reverse engineer your business plan. And I tell people, like, you have to start at the end. Like, okay, first of all, you have to find out where your passion and where you have like a segment of people or a segment of a niche segment, right? Where does that kind of intersect? So you find something that you love because you're going to be talking about this every day, right?
Yeah.
Or at least once a week or whatever the case may be. So you don't want to get bored. You don't want to get burnt out on it. But secondly, whatever you're talking about, it has to have some type of product or some type of demand to where there's going to be somebody who wants to have that audience. So you have to find that like really, acute intersection to where it's like this, if I build an audience here, I can monetize this audience. So you have to make it make sense. So I tell people, if you're going to start a podcast, you have to find like a niche first, right? And drill down get as niche as possible, because 1,000 people listening to you every day about, let's say it's being a diesel tech, right? If you have 1,000 people listening every week about being a diesel technician, it's way more popular than 100,000 people following you talking about trending topics or what's in the news, because those people are dialed in and they're going to spend money, right? So if you're building that audience, you can monetize that audience. And if I bring this to you and I say, hey, diesel laptops, I have 1,000 people who are listening to me every day about diesel tech, you're going to say, I need that audience, right?
Yeah.
And you're more likely to work with me, even though the numbers may look bigger on the other side with 100,000. It's like, but they're all over the place. They don't care. You want that really, really small, concise audience. So that's what it's all about in podcasting.
People miss that, I think, because everyone's used to social media with like, here's the number of views I got, the number of likes I got. And that's the part they miss with podcasts. 100% how we look at it too is like, I don't need 20,000 people listening to my podcast. I need a much smaller percentage that are just engaged and understand why we're here and what we're doing. Because I know eventually they'll engage with me somehow, some way when they do need something.
100%.
So, but building an audience is tough.
It is.
It's really tough. Okay, so your first podcast, how did it go? Did it get traffic? Did it not get traffic? Do you remember? Were you nervous?
No, I do remember. I wasn't really nervous because, I'm kind of like a talker. I'm inquisitive. I like to ask questions. I remember like looking at the analytics. I started the podcast. I put it on Anchor, and maybe like 96 people listened to it. And I guess those people just kind of like stumbled upon it. I don't even know how they found it. Right. But really, it's just a word of mouth thing. Like it has to spread. You have to build like a cult following to really build an audience in podcasting. And that kind of starts with just your messaging, right? And knowing who your audience is. And eventually over time, if you have that kind of core and you're consistent. The first thing I say is, number one, you want to batch record a lot of content in the beginning, right? Because that's how you kind of like fall off. Because the thing is, like, week to week to week to week, if you're trying to continue the podcast, life happens, you get busy, eventually you're going to miss a week. So I always say, if you're going to start a podcast, before you launch, have like 4 to 6 episodes already ready. That way, as those episodes are released, you could still continue to record more content, and you can stay on track. Because the last thing you want to do is, as you start to build that trust in the audience, is take off a week, take off 2 weeks, take off 3 weeks. Because now you're building momentum, and then once you take off, that momentum's gonna die down. So you have to build that trust. It's like a contract. It's like a nonverbal contract. Like, I promise you, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. I will be here delivering this content. So once you start, you can't stop. It's no turning back. And usually what I see people do is they just run out of content, right? So they start off strong, they're excited, and then they look at those numbers, they look at those analytics, and it's not exactly what they expected. And then they're like, man, what am I getting out of this? What's the return on this investment of my time? And I think because you don't have big picture, you haven't started at the end, now you're gonna stop because you can't see the end of the road. All you can see is there's 50 people listening to this podcast every week. It's not really growing. Why am I wasting my time doing this?
Yeah, it was the same way with me with LinkedIn, right? So like my LinkedIn gets millions of views a year, and people are like, oh man, how do I do that? I'm like, oh man, it's really simple. You post consistent, relevant posts on LinkedIn several times a week for the next 8 years, and you'll be here. Like
that's it.
This is
it's
the magic.
very simple.
Yeah,
They don't want to do it. It's
though.
the long game. Everybody wants the cheat code.
Yeah.
This world, and like just even like in hearing your story as we walk through the facility today, it's like it takes time, man.
Yeah.
Everything takes time. Like you have to literally have the mindset like you have 30 years in this thing, and it may take 3. But you have to think it's going to take 30, and you have to be ready for 30. So if, like you said, every single day you're consistently posting content over time, they see you and they're like, oh, man, you got millions of views, but they're not looking at all the work you did to get there. And it just literally takes work. And even at the level where we're at right now, it's like we're just getting started. We're 3.5 years
young
in.
Still. You're young.
We're 3.5 years in. We're just getting started. So it's like, we've thank God we've gotten the success that we've had. Thank you to our community and the people who follow us. But it's like we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
Do you know how many? Can you say like how many YouTube views you've had, or like how many?
Yeah, I mean,
where are you guys at now?
We're like over 10 million. Like 10, 11 million YouTube views now. Our podcast does about 80,000 downloads per month.
Yeah.
And then like in terms of social media and all that, I couldn't even tell you what that is. Kind of like in just impressions.
I mean, you're kicking our ass, right? But I'm focused on diesel tech.
You're focused on diesel tech.
So people don't need to get worried about the numbers. I was just trying to put in perspective for some of the audience here.
For sure. No, I appreciate that. And literally that's just come over consistency, man. Like some, you'll see, some videos do better than others. And at the end of the day, like I used to get stuck on like trying to crack the code and crack the algorithm.
Oh, yeah,
like,
let me time it right.
What works? Let me time it. Let me look at this and when are the listeners here and what videos are working. But literally, man, it's just you have to literally just do it over and over and over and over again. And you're not going to see the results immediately, but just one day, like all that work will compound, right? Here's the thing, right? You can do one video, right, that let's say has 1 million views, right, on YouTube. And if people go to that channel and they don't see the work, that one video with 1 million views is not going to get you a bunch of subscribers because you just basically got lucky, right? But if you've been doing videos consistently over time, and you have one video that hits, right, and now they look and they're like, hold on, this is like this. They've been doing it for 3 years.
Yep.
You're going to convert a good percentage of that 1 million to become followers and subscribers because like they're like, oh, I like this video. They probably have tons of other content like this, right? So, but if you don't do that work, if you're not consistently putting in over week after week after week, they don't see that. They'll just move on. Oh, okay, you got lucky. Lightning strikes, every now and again, and you struck lightning real quick, right? So that's the thing, man. You have to consistently put in the work, and it just sounds cliche. Nobody wants to hear it,
100%
but it's just putting in the work. There's no cheat code, anything, just working.
Yeah.
Right?
So do you remember like when you first started getting traction, you're like, okay, maybe I'm onto something? Was it early? Did it take a while? When did it happen for you?
Honestly, it was pretty early. And that was probably a blessing for me because I didn't understand the podcast business that well when I first got started. So because I got good feedback, it encouraged me to keep on going.
Yeah.
Right now, had I not gotten that feedback, I don't know if I'd still be here, right? But because there was such a void in the marketplace, I think especially for the voice of the small carriers, small businesses, a lot of the transportation media out there today is kind of geared towards larger enterprise companies, right? They're talking about the spot market and they're talking about all these like really sophisticated things and data that a lot of people just aren't ready to consume that. Sometimes people just need a little bit of inspiration.
I've tried listening to them. I don't get it. But I'm not in that space, I guess.
Right.
It's kind of boring.
It gets boring. And the thing is, you have to start somewhere. So it's like, to me, we want to inspire you to begin with to know like, hey, like you can kind of come from anywhere. You can come from any place. These are people who look like you, who come from similar backgrounds, who are just like you, who have gotten to whatever level that is, and you can do it too. So we like to start with the inspiration, and then we like to go into the information. Like, let me inspire you first. Let me get you fired up first, and then after that, we're gonna tell you how we did it. And I think that's what a lot of the other media companies, they miss is like the soul, because that's where you have to tug at the heart first to get people into it. And that's what we do. We tug at the heart first, and we get people committed to the story. And then after that, just like me walking through your facility, it inspires me. I'm inspired. So now, where I may have looked at your business from afar and said, that's a boring business, I would never do that.
Yeah.
Right? Now when you tell me the story and I just learned everything about it, I'm like, man, I would do something like this, right? I feel totally different about it being here, learning the story of how it was built than just seeing it from the outside looking in. So it's all about just really just understanding the story. So that's what we like to do.
Yeah, when I first told people I was quitting my job to go do this, they were like, dude, like, what are you going to do once everybody has a tool? I was like, I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Right.
I'm 8 years in and I'm not there yet. But, you know,
Right.
like, it's really hard, I think, for a lot of outsiders to look at it, because if you told someone, like, I'm going to quit my job or go start a podcast, they're kind of like, okay, like, they don't get what it can lead to.
For sure.
But like I've said, I've seen it with you. I've seen it with, like, Jamie Irvine, the Heavy Duty Parts Report.
Yep.
You know, Freight Waves obviously does some things out there, a lot of the spot market stuff, but they got some good episodes as well. So it's cool to see. Matt Leffler's another one out there.
Yeah,
it's good. It's good to see, like, people taking some ambition to go do some new things that are a lot different that they normally wouldn't do. And I think that's really what an entrepreneur is doing something that's a little uncomfortable, a little bit different. One of the parts I want to ask you is, like, I know what it's been like growing my business, like, on the financial side, right? Like, it's tough. You got to keep growing your business. You got taxes. You got employees. Yeah. How's it been scaling up? I guess you did have your staffing business before. So this was like, you already knew all these things, or did you figure as you go?
No, different? Well, the thing is, this space is totally new to me and totally new in general. It's new to everybody, right? People who study podcast data and analytics every day are still learning about this platform and how to really, you know, understand the numbers, right? The raw numbers. So, you know, for me, the key thing for me in building and I guess scaling is a team. Like, I was doing this by myself for a very long time. And the best thing that I did was starting to hire people to help, even though it's an expense. Yeah. But I know that from my previous business that you have to hire in order to grow. So I think that was a key thing. It's like, because I can be a one-man show. I can, you know, set up, record, and just edit real quick and throw it on YouTube. But if I'm taking this seriously and I want to take it to the next level, I need a team around me. So that was the most important, you know, decision that I made, was to start building a team around me to make sure that I can be isolated and do what I do best, which is create content, right? And be creative. And they can focus on the other things, building the business, right? I have the vision. I know what I want. I know what I want Truck and Hustle to look like. And I try to put the people in place to get us there. And that has been the best thing, I think, for our growth.
So was that hard for you to do?
In terms of like
just giving up
the baby?
Yeah.
It's always hard to give up the baby, man.
It's not just me. You know, you made it sound like, no big deal.
And listen, you know, and especially from creatively, because you think you can do everything the best, right? Like, I think I can name the YouTube videos the best. I think I can, like,
best
you know, the best thumbnail. Like, of course, no one can do it as good as me. Yeah. And you know what? Maybe they can't. But you have to let them have at it, man. You have to give it up and just say, hey, listen, I'm gonna trust you. And maybe it may not be as good as what you've done in the past, but eventually you'll get there. You just have to let go for a little bit and trust, and then eventually it'll all come together. But yeah, for sure, giving up your baby and letting people kind of take it and do what they will, because you feel like nobody cares as much as you do. But if you have the vision and you kind of let people know the expectation, and you create that culture around what you're building, people will care about it the way you care about it. And that's what we're blessed to have, that kind of team of people who care. And they see Truck and Hustle as more than a podcast. Like, we're a media company. Yeah. And we have tons of different verticals that we're getting into, you know, community, merchandise. You know, we look at ourselves like the bar stool of transportation and logistics, right? Yeah. Something that could be fun, entertainment, but we want to have different verticals that to where we're not just, you know, stuck in having to get sponsorship revenue. Because ultimately, I don't want to be stuck there. I don't want to feel like I can't eat unless somebody feeds me. Yeah, that's not a place where you ever want to be.
Yeah, I got the feeling you got more ideas already coming down.
Oh yeah, man, too many ideas. You should see my iPhone notes, and you're probably the same way, because like literally, like every time I see something, like, let me put that idea down, and I get back to it later. It makes me feel good just to know it's written down somewhere in a safe space, and I'll come back to it at some point.
True entrepreneur, man. I love it. I love it. All right, people want to listen to you, watch you, connect with you. Where are we heading them to?
Yeah, so the easiest place to find me is probably YouTube. So you go to Truck and Hustle, TruckNHustle, and that's across all platforms. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, you name it, we're there. And also podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. You can't miss us. Or just Google us. Go to truckandhustle.com. And I just want everybody to definitely look out for Freight Fest. that is like that's my baby right now, man. Just this event space. It's new. It's really expensive to do events, but you know, just when you get everybody in that room and you see like the turnout, it's all worth it, man.
Yeah.
It's all worth it. But yeah, Freight Fest is coming in the fall, September 28th through October 1st in Houston, Texas, at Hilton Americas Hotel. And I'm extremely excited about that, and I hope to see you at Freight Fest.
Actually,
man.
I believe I'm going to be there. Yeah, I think there's a panel.
There we go.
Repairs.
So you will be at Freight Fest.
I'll be at Freight Fest.
Okay.
And I know we got some ads going on our platform for you guys and some things.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's been great getting to know you.
Yes.
I think there's going to be a good future here. We're both servicing the same customers from just some different angles.
For sure.
So it's going to be great. But yeah, no, we're gonna wrap it up an episode. I end every episode. It's not just diagnostics. It's diagnostics done right. And truckers, truck and hustle, all the things that need to keep everything running out there. So love what you guys are doing over there. I love the stories, by the way. There are some amazing, amazing stories
Thank you.
I've listened to on your channel.
Thank you.
So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Yes, sir.